Welcome to issue 266 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here, we take a good look at the most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters unfairly labeled as villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, KennedyHawk, and we've got two other awesome hosts with us today. We have Mika. How's it going?
Doing good. How are you?
Great. Couldn't be more excited to be the time of year it is. And we've got our classic villain, Vardane. How's it going?
Hey, KennedyHawk. How are you doing?
Great. Jazzed to be here.
Yeah, we're jazzed to have you. Man, it has been a while since you have been on the show.
Too long.
Yes, too long. Well, before we talk about you, let's talk about that big gap, which is the Daniel, who is not here. We are missing our big foam loaf.
Missing is a strong word.
Yeah, okay. You got us there. But he heard what tonight's show is going to be all about. So I'm not going to bury the lead. We're going to talk all about Con of Heroes. And he said, well, I'm not going to Con of Heroes. I gave my ticket away, so I'm not coming on this show. I hate all of you. And he ran off into the corner crying. And we'll find him later and talk to him later. So
what a hero. Gosh.
I know, right?
Horrible.
I know. We got to toughen these villains up a little bit.
No morals.
So we're going to skip what's on his mind tonight. We're going to skip everything else, and we're going to go right to it, because we want to talk Con of Heroes 2025 with KennedyHawk, who is one of the guys putting on the event. I don't know. Maybe you don't know KennedyHawk. He's the host over at the MCM podcast. Those guys are putting out great content. Go look at his stuff. Go listen to his shows. I've been listening to your current Shield stuff. It's been great. I've been enjoying that.
New box is good.
Yep.
Super excited.
Yes. I have a sneaking suspicion there's going to be a lot of Shield played at this Con of Heroes, but
Probably.
maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
We'll talk about that, I guess.
A lot of Maria Hill clones are going to be showing up.
Yeah. Well, let's get to it. Let's talk Con of Heroes.
Yeah.
So we got a few things we're going to try to do. In general, we're going to talk about some first-timer advice for folks who haven't been to the con before, or maybe haven't been to any con. Like what to bring, what to expect, how to act while you're there, what we're bringing. We're going to talk about some cards and some scheduling. And then, Dan, you brought with us... Can I call you Dan on the show? Can I call you Dan?
Yeah. We don't need that other Daniel. We have a new one. It's fine.
I know. It's better. Dan brought some Con of Heroes spoiler cards for us to look at towards the end of the show. So stay tuned. Stick around, folks.
Nice.
All right. Where should we start?
I guess just with what Con of Heroes is. So this is to count on my hands and toes, 4th Con of Heroes that we've had as a community. And it's really a community event. It's organized by the community. Everything that comes out there is by the community. It's not organized by Asmodee or FFG, but it is right next to the North America Asmodee headquarters. So that's pretty cool. And it's a yearly event that's hosted at Game Center in Roseville, Minnesota. And it's really just a bunch of cool community members getting to hang out and play what's probably one of their favorite games for 3 straight days. If you're attending a con that's all about Marvel Champions, hopefully you like the game. And it's a blast. You get to meet all the people that are behind usernames on Discord or behind profile pictures on the Bookface, and play with people that maybe you would never get to meet in any other setting. So it's really kind of just like a community celebration of a game that we all like, which is cool.
Yeah, I have been to one Con of Heroes, last year's, which was great. I've been to a couple Con of the Rings, which is the same idea but for Lord of the Rings. I've been to a Gen Con, which is insane. It was a 50th anniversary. I really like these smaller cons where, like, you guys did a great job last year. I sat down and played Marvel Champions all day long, played some other stuff while I was there, but really focused in on the community and the people that you know online and playing the game that I like. It was just great. So, have you guys been to other cons?
Yeah,
I have.
I've been to all of the Con of Heroes so far, but I did the Arkham cons that they did that the Mythbusters had done, and Gen Con and quite a few other local cons and game cons. So Con of Heroes is definitely up there with them, though.
Yeah, I've done Arkham Knights at like the Roseville Game Center before. I've never gotten to do Con of the Rings. I've always wanted to. I used to go to Gen Con a lot. Back when Gen Con was in Milwaukee, I was a wee lad that lived in Milwaukee. And my parents maybe didn't necessarily pay attention to what I did, so I would just get to go, and they had no idea. But it was super fun. And now it's in Indy, and luckily my in-laws live in Indy, so I always have a connection to go to Gen Con. And then in Madison, Wisconsin, it's not a small con. It's probably 1,000 people or something like that, but it's called Gamehole Con, and it was founded by like the founders of D&D and stuff like that to bring people in the Midwest together for gaming. And that's always a blast to go to. When I used to live in Madison, we would go to that every other year. And now I try to go back for that if I can.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I find that Con of Heroes, Con of the Rings, Arkham Knights, or BusterCon. Mike has mentioned BusterCon. He's helping organize that this year in October. I find those conventions to be a completely different beast than Gen Con.
Yeah.
They both have their
Oh,
positives. They both have their negatives, I guess. If you compare the two, right? Like, Con of Heroes, I guess it's not a negative, but I'm not spending a ton of money at this hall with all these new games that are coming out and the vendor hall and seeing all these demos of different stuff. So that's the difference for Con of Heroes is I'm just playing this game, which is really all I want to do anyways. My wallet appreciates that too.
Yeah,
So.
it's not nearly as chaotic.
Yeah, there's no vendor hall yeah, exactly.
No.
There's no big event hall to run through. You just get a table, meet some people, and get to play with them. Yeah, in Gen Con, it's kind of the like tickle all spots in my brain because I get to try to like spend 5 minutes playing every game that I play.
Right.
But then by the end of the week, I'm super worn out. Whereas at Con of Heroes, I'm also worn out by the end of the week, but it's because I haven't slept for 72 hours and I've just played Marvel Champions. So I really get to dedicate time to like one game that I want to play intensely.
Yeah, Gen Con has definitely turned into more about the experience and the spectacle. There are still a lot of games there, but there's just so much stuff packed in. Cons like this and Buster Con or even Gamehole Con, things like that. I think Con of the North is up in Minnesota as well. That are just smaller and you can focus on the games and just so much better.
So I guess with what to expect, you should expect games, lots of games, right? You should play lots of games of Marvel Champions, bring some decks and plan to play games. But also other games. People bring other games and play them at the hotel late at night, or maybe at breakfast before the con officially opens for the day. It is in like a sort of convention hall in the back of a store, which is just like, imagine like a giant aircraft hangar. It's kind of like that. So really tall ceilings. But there's a lot of people in the room. I think the con has grown 20% each year, and this year it's grown like another 15 to 20%. So it's pretty packed in the room. There will be like 1 or 2 open seats this year. So it does get noisy in there. So if you have noise sensitivities or things like that, I bring earplugs to the con because I have hearing loss. So that way, if the noise does start to like give me a headache or like really frustrate me, I can just put my earplugs in and just talk really loud at my table so everyone knows what I'm saying. But I know like some people have like noise sensitivities and things like that. It is in Minneapolis, so it's nice and like not too hot outside. So if you need to take a breather outside, you can definitely go outside and get some air. Lots of lovely space in the area.
Yeah, I did that last year. I just need to get up, walk around, drink some water, go outside for a few minutes, and then come back in, recharge. Now, going outside can be tricky, even in May, because I've been there when it's snowing and it's raining and it's cold. So if you fly from a southern state where it's warm already, nice and hot, pack a coat or something light or a hoodie or something to put on because it can be cold.
At least check the weather.
Yes. Yeah.
As a true northerner, I wear shorts, but that's me.
Right. Yeah. But other people maybe not. So.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing to touch on, you just talked about water. So there is some food at the convention. We usually get some kind of like cookies and lemonade that can be provided by the store that we pay for to have in the convention hall. The store also has a kitchen, but it is a very limited kitchen. This year, there's going to be some food trucks that come by. I don't have the exact schedule in front of me right now, but it'll be posted on the Con of Heroes website eventually. So one of our community members was able to arrange to have food trucks come by so that there's closer food that you can go get something outside at the food truck. I believe there's an arrangement that you can then bring the food inside, but I am not the venue person, so I'll have to double check on that. But I believe that is the plan, that we paid some sort of convenience fee to be able to bring the food then into the hall and ignore the fact that they have a kitchen. So there should be a lot more food options than there normally are this year, which is going to be great.
I really hope they do. They allow that, because the fact that I mean, one year when I went, the kitchen was like a full on kitchen. You get pizza and burgers and all this sort of stuff. And then last year it was a lot smaller than the first time I had been there. But there are restaurants nearby. There are people who are driving in. There's stuff within walking distance. You can easily, do a DoorDash or something like that, right? And get food brought to you and go eat at the hotel or sit outside or do whatever. So you don't starve. There's no reason for you to don't get hangry, right? Like, yeah.
Definitely. I will warn people though, keep in mind that you're playing a card game, and with a lot of people around you, you might have limited space and you might not have plates available. I know, like in other cons, people have like ordered pizza and brought it in. Nobody had plates, so they're trying to figure out how to eat greasy pizza around cards.
Yeah.
So
good point. Good point.
Not to say don't do that, because I've done that, but just keep that in mind. Is there may or may not be a ton of space to spread out your food and cards, and you're going to be around cars. Hopefully everybody's sleeving, but
I would say what you can expect when you enter the hall, like Mike is saying, right? You're probably going to find a table. There's going to be these big long rows of tables. Think of like fold out sort of card tables covered with like some sort of tablecloth or linen. So there'll be giant rows of that. And if you come with a group, you can sit down and play with that group right away. If you don't know somebody, we're going to kind of have like an area in one corner that's like, hey, if you don't have a group, come look for a group over here. And people will set up like 2-player games saying, hey, I need 2 more people. So you're going to get to pick a table and sit down at. I try to, I make it my goal to play with as many people as possible. So I try to bounce all over the room. But I know other people kind of like set up camp on their table, and then they're on that table the whole weekend. So it's really up to you. There's no like assigned seat or anything like that. But yeah, since there are going to be a lot of people, there's going to be a little bit less table space for food. But throughout the day, there's usually time to get some food. There's also like more tables outside the event hall that are for like the game store. And I don't know if we're officially supposed to eat there, but that's what I did last year. Is I just ate every meal at like a table right outside the event hall. That way I didn't have to worry about bringing my food inside by my cards and stuff like that.
Yeah. As for playing with other people, let's jump to that for a second.
Yeah.
It's great to go, like, right, Mike is going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and Dan's going to be there, and, all these other people are coming that I know, and I want to play with games with them. And I'll probably play the most amount of games with Mike just because, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to at some point get up, look around. People, you see 2 people, 3 people, hey, you need another player, you're looking for somebody. Everybody has been really welcoming. Everybody wants to play a game. Don't feel shy. I know sometimes gamers are a little introverted. It's okay. We're all there for the exact same thing, right? So if you're looking for a game and you're wandering around and you see somebody starting to set up, hey, looking for another one? Just ask, right? Most people are going to say, yeah, join in. Who you playing? What do you got? Don't worry about your experience level. Just sit down, play a game, have fun, right? Nobody's going to... I mean, they might say, hey, we're only playing Heroic 6, so maybe that's not the table for you, right?
Definitely not for me.
Not for me either, right?
Fast game.
Yeah, it's over on round 2. Round 1, maybe. But yeah, I've never had an issue with this crowd welcoming folks to play. And I really enjoy personally playing with other people. And it's okay to ask questions and what are you doing and how's your deck? Or maybe you learned something that you didn't know was a rule, or you play it different than somebody else. And I always enjoy that experience.
Yeah, and if you see me not playing a game, please stop me and play a game with me. That's a rule for me.
So Dan, I know in some of the cons what they do is they'll have like a little flag or some kind of visual indicator if somebody's looking for others. Now, is Con of Heroes going to have that?
We will. So we have 10 of these little flags. They have like Magneto's helmet on them because they're the year that Magneto was the theme, that say like looking for players. But if I'm being honest, we've made those every year and no one has ever used them. So we'll still have them. They will be there. And if you choose to use them, please do. But if you see like a little, it's almost like if you think about like when you go to a wedding, they have like those little, I don't know, like blocks that have like a spring coming out of them to hold like a table seat assignment. It's that, but it says looking for players. So if you see one of those little red placards, that means you can walk up to them and say, hey, can I join your game?
Yeah, that's always a good option if you're uncomfortable asking others. Go find a spot and put that and make people come to you.
Yeah. Or you can email me or Discord us, and say, I'm at the con, I'm looking for a game, and we will let you join us. Join us, play with us. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do you have the schedule for the events? Let's talk
I
that.
do have the schedule. So yeah, the schedule just came out on the Con of Heroes website, which is conofheroes.com. So I'll just read through it briefly. And I guess I should have said this at the beginning. There's 3 videos coming out from different content creators overcapping different spoiler cards and the events for the con. So I think this is going to be the 3rd one released. So if you haven't checked the one out on the MCM channel or the Winning Hand channel, there's going to be 2 other videos introducing you to a couple of the cards we're going to see here, but there's some unique ones for this show in particular as well. So the schedule is Thursday, a lot of people arrive at the hotel, and we kind of have a hotel meetup in the hotel lobby. There's a couple rooms open in the hotel where you can also play games, and you can just meet people and get excited for tomorrow. The organizers will likely be setting up the show for tomorrow, but sometimes we get done early and then we're able to come back and play games with people and talk about tomorrow. So that happens 7:30 on Thursday night. There's some groups that are like going to a brewery. There's some groups that are going to see like the Thunderbolts movie and all sorts of things like that. So just hop on one of the Discords into a Con of Heroes channel and be like, hey, I'm going to be there Thursday, and you might find some people to hang out with. On Friday, Game Center opens at noon. Which is earlier than last year, and the con will immediately start. So you'll walk into the Game Center doors, you kind of walk through a store, past some tables, and you'll see some giant doors in the back of the hall that are open. You'll walk in there and get all of your cool swag from the con, and that's where the con officially kicks off. And then there are 2 events on Friday. So at 2 p.m., there's going to be, I'm really excited for this. It's I thought of this show when we made up this event and tested it.
Ooh,
but it's
cool.
going to be a Thunderbolts scenario event where we always do like a warm-up event where everybody plays the same scenario, but we don't necessarily have to like organize amongst tables. We just like get to have a fun time. So we're going to play the Thunderbolts scenario with a unique rule where instead of, so in Thunderbolts in a 4-player game, you'd include 1 mod plus 1 per player mods that have the elite Thunderbolts minion in them somewhere. So like a mega minion, if you will. So instead, you're only going to choose 1 of those Thunderbolt elite minions, and everyone's going to use their Nemesis set as the other mod sets that get shuffled into the deck. So everyone's Nemesis will get shuffled under the Thunderbolts environment card, and then everyone's Nemesis minion will gain 10 hit points per player. So sorry if you're Venom, that means you have a lot more Thunderbolts to chew through. But in general, we're going to get to see these Nemesis minions join the Thunderbolts team. So maybe don't play Phoenix or Venom in Event 1. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
Magic's going to be fun.
Don't worry about it. It'll be
she
fine.
technically only has 1 Nemesis. It's
that's-
just the Nemesis minion.
Just the
Exactly.
Nemesis, yeah.
And then at 4:30, there's going to be events that will spoil some cards from later today. And it's going to be what we call a multiverse event. So if you've played an FFG, LCG before, they call those like epic multiplayer events where my table might affect the table next to me. And this is the 3rd one that we've designed. The spin this year is the last 2 we've designed. They've been modular sets that you can plug into any scenario. But this year we really wanted to make something where we had more control over the scenario and like could make a more standardized experience. So this multiverse event is going to be a custom, totally fan, not official, not associated with FFG or nearly as good as their stuff, epic multiplayer event that you'll get to play through where we all fight against Carnage and try to recruit different spiders from amongst the tables to help us out.
That sounds cool.
So that'll be at 4:30. It's going to be super fun, I hope. Game Center closes at 10 p.m. the first day, which is an hour later than last year. But then we have a room at the hotel that the hotel is going to keep open until 1 a.m. for people to play games at the hotel. So the hotel is like a block from the actual venue, so you should be fine there.
Yeah, they basically share a parking lot. So
basically, I walk. I don't know.
I walk, between the 2. It's not bad.
So Saturday, Game Center opens at 10, so earlier, not noon. And then at 10:30, a lot of teams are going to form up and play this custom campaign that we've crafted for the scenario. So it's just 3 cards that will orchestrate you through a campaign of Marvel Champions, playing up to 4 scenarios. So it's nothing super fancy, nothing like FFG campaign rules, but they're the 3 Carnage offspring symbiote suits. And at the start of scenario 1, you shuffle and reveal a random one, and it gets attached to the villain and gives the villain a buff. And if you defeat that villain, it flips over, and in future games, you get to attach it to one of your heroes. but it has an ability that like heroes can like rip the symbiote off each other. So you're like playing hot potato with the symbiote suit, trying to power up your team for the next villain. So there's 3 different Carnage offspring, and then you can use the 3 suits against the final villain that you choose to play against. So you don't have to play all 4 scenarios. You could just play 2 or 1 to test it out. But a lot of people are going to play this campaign.
Question on the campaign: Is
yeah.
it? Are we bringing our own? Are we playing scenarios from pre-existing
That's a
stuff?
great question. So the first 2 years, we made a campaign where we said you will play scenario A, and it will have these mod sets, and it will have this theme, and it was very like strict and regimented. And sometimes, right, like a scenario campaign I design might not be one that a casual player wants to play, or a casual player might design something, and I might be like, oh, Rhino, I'm so sick of him. So last year, what we did is we had this Danger Room campaign because it was X-Men themed. And it was basically like the Danger Room is spawning different missions. So you can pick your favorite 4 missions and play them. And this year is the same. So there's these 3 symbiote suits, but you could have Rhino in a symbiote suit, and then you could have Claw in a symbiote suit, and then you could decide, maybe I want to play against Black Widow from the new box as my 3rd mission. So you get to pick sort of your favorite 4 scenarios and play through those. So I always tell people when preparing for that, just bring your favorite scenarios that you want to play with other people. And if everybody does that, you'll probably have a pretty fun campaign to construct together.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
5 p.m. there's going to be a big group photo that we take of the whole con, and then Game Center closes at 9 p.m. on Saturday, which is crazy for a game store.
Yeah,
but
that
it does.
seems early.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's again later than last year, which is shocking, but very very early. But again, we'll have that room at the hotel that's open till 1. So gaming from 10 a.m. till 1 a.m. I'll probably stay up a little bit later. And then Sunday, the con opens at 10 a.m., and it's kind of just a community day. There's no structured events. It's just play with people that you've met that you might not get to see again until the next year. If you haven't caught a game with me or with Vardane or someone you're looking for, try to catch a game with us on that day. I try to crank out a lot of 2- and 3-player games on that day, so I can play with as many people as possible. And some people bring like their favorite games. Like I know Andy N used to bring like Root and Scythe and other games to play amongst community members. And Game Center closes at 6 p.m. on Sunday, so that's when the con will officially close.
Yeah, I noticed on Sunday people have flights out, so you might not make it all the way through.
Yeah.
I have yet to be able to stay until the end, but
Usually I stay until Monday, but this year the class that I teach, last year it ended before the con, but this year they changed the schedule at the university I'm at. So their final is actually the day after the convention. So I have to make sure I'm back so that if they have questions during their test, I can answer them. So I'm going to leave Sunday somewhere in the middle of the day, unfortunately.
Yeah, me too. You gotta do what you gotta do. So.
And there's a couple more pop-up events that might happen, but they're not official or confirmed yet. So just stay tuned to Discord and social media and things like that, and you'll get to hear about those, or at the Con of Heroes website, and you'll hear about them.
Yeah, you mentioned other games. I know last year a lot of Star Wars Unlimited got played, like off to the side. I know you crushed me a few times.
No, never.
I
don't even know what that game is.
It's okay. So yeah, and stuff's available. You know, there is a game store there. So that's another thing.
Bad. It's so
you
bad.
might go home with stuff. So you make room in that suitcase to take home a game or another pack or something maybe. So
well, and we'll talk about I think what to bring next. But one thing you'll want to bring for sure is your phone, so you can know when the events are and take pictures of the awesome thing. But you're going to want to bring card sleeves. So I just mentioned you're going to get a Carnage custom scenario. That's for you as attending the con. Like we designed that and are giving it to you as a gift. So you will take it home. So you probably want to sleeve it right away, especially since there's people eating food and stuff like that. So I always tell people, like, if you have special sleeves for encounter cards, we don't use the official FFG back because, again, we're not official in any way. Completely fan content, custom, blah, 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 blah. So we have like a different like custom back that just says Champions on it that was made by like a community member. So if like I use orange sleeves for all my encounter cards, so I bring a box of orange sleeves, I bring a box of like clear sleeves because there's some double-sided cards and things like that. That way I'm ready like as soon as I get my pack to open it up and sleeve everything and hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Should we talk about other things to bring, or do you have any questions?
No, I think the other thing we want to talk about what to expect is usually, and not always and not officially, but usually some folks from FFG manage to wander into the convention hall. Caleb, Tony, Frank, Alicia, Xander, like these folks were there last year. Maybe we'll see Aaron, or we played a game with Zach Twaltimus last year from FFG. Mm-hmm. So these folks are there. They work across the street. sometimes they come in, they say hi, so you get a little chance to kind of chat with them, maybe shake their hand, say, so that's really nice. And they're just there in an unofficial capacity because
Yep.
They're fans of the game too, right? They just want to hang out a little bit. So that was really fun. And they're open to photos and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for them.
Yep.
Jumping back real quick to what to bring as far as cards go, Dan, I know in previous cons there have been like the specific scenarios for like the campaign, but even in the more freeform ones, there might have been like, a specific encounter set or, an extra card or a specific thing to bring. Are there any this year that are
So
like, yeah,
this
you can
year-
bring whatever, but be sure you bring X?
Exactly. So there's an article that went live on April 4th, and we can give you the link to that to put in the show notes. That has an exact list of what modular sets and encounter sets to bring if you want to play in all the events. That being said, like there's going to be 150 people there. If 100 people bring it, that'll be more than enough. So don't feel like if you're packing light, you have to bring everything. But things you're definitely going to want are the Thunderbolts scenario and at least one Thunderbolts mod for that first scenario. You're going to want to bring Symbiotic Strength, which I think is the extra activations Venom modular set from Sinister Motives. And I think those are the only ones specifically that you need to make sure you bring. But that article will have for sure anything else if I forgot of something that I didn't say right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure all the links are in the show notes, and we'll probably repost them maybe in our socials, a link over to Con of Heroes webpage so you can find all that. All right, so we're going to link that sheet. We know what modulars and villains and some of that stuff, sleeves. Don't forget to bring a playmat.
Yep.
You're going to want one if you have one. Is there a playmat this year, however? Do we get a playmat this year?
There's a playmat add-on, so when you bought your ticket, you can buy a playmat add-on.
Okay.
So there is a new playmat with Carnage as like the centerpiece picture on it.
So maybe you don't need a playmat because maybe you paid for the add-on and you're going to get a playmat. Don't forget your tokens. All those little extra bits and pieces. So what that ends up doing is you have, I don't know, a box with cards and a box with tokens and a playmat and all this other stuff and a bottle of water and all these other things. And you got on a plane with a suitcase and that's all you brought. So I like to shove a little bag in my suitcase so that from the hotel to the convention center, I can put my game stuff in that bag, a backpack or something like that, a carry-on style thing, and bring that to the convention center. And I have to wheel my suitcase back and forth or try to, figure out how to carry all these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about other stuff that we bring to the con that's not necessarily cards and stuff. Dan, probably people need their ticket, right?
Your ticket is on your phone. So if you bring your phone, it should be in your email, and it's just like a QR code we scan. So yeah, please bring that if you have it. If you don't, we can look you up in the system, but it just kind of like slows things down at the door. You said tokens, you said playmat, villains that you want to play. I guess decks. I know one person one year, I won't say who it was because that would be embarrassing, that they didn't forget decks for the whole trip, but they stayed at a hotel that was further away, and they got to the convention and sat down for their first game, and they looked in their little quiver of decks, and they said, I didn't bring any decks today. So they had to bum decks from other people. So that was it was actually kind of a good experience for them because they got to try other people's decks. But if everyone did that, that would be bad. So bring a deck. I always like to bring, like you said, a water bottle.
Sneak some snacks in.
Yeah.
Also,
That's very useful.
Tylenol, Advil, something along those lines. Sometimes I get a headache. You know what I mean? Like
for people my age, definitely. Yeah.
Right. And be sitting all day. Don't forget your Bengay or your Metamucil, that sort of stuff for you old guys.
Deodorants for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Please practice hygiene.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's a good segue. How do we act at a convention? This is maybe for new folks, maybe for old folks. When I say old folks, I mean like people who have been to conventions before. But I always heard this 3-2-1 rule when you go to a convention. Have you guys heard of this rule before?
I have. I'll let you talk about it though.
Okay. 3 hours of sleep each night, minimum. Okay.
Sure.
2 meals a day. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
1 shower every day. So
Definitely.
the 3-2-1 rule for convention etiquette. There you go. 3 hours of sleep, which I need more than that, but minimum. 2 meals.
When you get to
shower.
be my age, 3 hours just don't cut it.
Doesn't cut it anymore. But yeah, and that's a good, I think, rule of thumb, or maybe it's a 5-2-1. But yeah, there's a lot of people in the room. It gets hot. be considerate and kind of other folks. But I think not just that, but just expect friendliness, be friendly, invite people to your table, play games with strangers. You mentioned somebody who, which we're not naming names, didn't bring any decks that one day, and I really like playing somebody else's deck. So if you want to try one of my decks out, great. I'll let you use it, and I'll use yours. I love to swap. You just be conscious that you're using somebody else's cards, right? Maybe shuffle it politely. No grubby, sticky fingers from that pizza. Keep your drinks away. That kind of stuff, right? But playing somebody else's deck is really a lot of fun because you get to see their thought process and, oh, I would never have thought to do this or to put this card in there. I really have a good time with that.
Yeah, and the other thing I would mention for a lot of people, because I mean, there are a lot of games to be played. So don't feel bad if you're like, you know what, I need a break. Either I've been sitting too long, it's too noisy, I'm too stimulated, or my brain's fried from playing all these games. You know, get up, take a walk, step outside, or just watch for a while. I know a couple of years ago, I brought our son, who was 10 at the time, and he had a great time. But like halfway through the second day, he's like, yeah, you could tell he was checked out. So obviously, I had stuff for him to do. Thank you, Nintendo Switch. Of just, you know, and it's just what it was, and he was fine doing that. But don't feel bad if you need to, because it's a lot.
I tell people to like plan to go to lunch or dinner with someone you were playing with, right? And meet a new person. That way you get out of the hall for a little bit, you get some fresh air, or plan to like go for a walk with somebody. It doesn't hurt to take 30 minutes off, walk to the hotel and back, just see the sun, right? And get rejuvenated. So I definitely think that that's like essential to keeping your best self while you're at the con, because you want to be the friendliest person you can be and engage with all the people that are around you. And you're at your best when you take those little mental breaks, right?
Yeah, last year I got a little salty.
Just with me. I'm just kidding.
It might have been with you. It was that multiverse event, and I felt like, you know, I'd been playing too long. I was getting hungry. We were getting stomped on. I'm like, this isn't fair. Meh. And I started pouting, and I got a little angry. And then, like, Daniel, like, Steve, I'm like, okay, give me a minute. And, like, calm down. Okay, it's fine. I'm playing a game. I'm supposed to be having fun. It's okay if we get crushed, right? Like, it's okay to lose. It's fine. Nobody's judging you. And that was kind of I wasn't listening to my own advice. I wasn't drinking enough water. I needed some food. I hadn't taken a break. So take those breaks, right? Don't let FOMO drive you crazy. Like, I'm going to miss a game. I got to play another game. There's plenty of games. You're going to be playing it sounds like we're going to be playing from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. So
that's right.
A lot of time.
If I see you go to bed, I'm going to be disappointed. No, I'm just kidding. Please go to bed when you need to. The other thing with like how to behave and like perform at a con, right, is to realize that we're all playing the same game, but we might not all be playing the same game, right? Like I used to be pretty try-hard and play like a lot of heroic in this game. I don't do that anymore. I'm too old for that now. So like at the con, I recommend everybody start by playing standard. And people that play on expert usually might huff at that and say, oh, I play on expert only. But at the con, if you want to have a fun time and win as much as possible and get to talk with the people you talk with on the internet all the time, it's going to be a lot easier for you to not worry about making play mistakes and like edging out those narrow wins if you're playing standard. So I recommend people start playing on standard. If you follow yourself into a group where like you're all usually playing expert and you agree, then upgrade and go play expert mode. But if you're playing on standard, you're generally getting to have more fun. You also, if you sit down with a stranger, you might not know. Like they may only had the game for a month, and you might have been playing it for 5 years. So it's good to sort of like read the table and start out with a standard game, so you figure out like where everybody is at and make sure everybody's having fun, because that's when it's at its best.
I was just gonna build off of that. The other thing I was gonna mention was just a lot of us play Marvel Champions solo or maybe 2-player. Remember that you're likely going to have 2 to 3 other players at the table. And I know there are some crazy OP decks out there. People put together these amazing, I'm doing 90 points of damage in a turn. I would just advise people to remember there are other people at the table. And if you're doing everything, they're going to get really bored and not have as much fun. So by all means, bring what decks you want to. And if you want to show off some crazy OP, combo deck, go for it. But, make sure that other people have a chance to play the game too.
Yeah, you don't want to take a 40-minute turn Steve.
Rocket.
Steve. Uh, but that's the thing. Ask the people. Standard game. I'm gonna play this. It's kind of does this sort of thing. And you'll get to feel it out too. You'll start to know what people are trying to play or who you're playing with, and maybe you play with the same person a couple times or the person you came with. The other thing too about people playing their own game is it's okay to ask a question or be like, wait, what did you do? I don't have those cards, or I didn't see that combo, or what's going on? Because some people play really fast. You play a solo game by yourself. There's no one there to check you. You just play through it, right? You can play a game in 20 minutes, 15 minutes or something crazy like that. But in a 4-player game, there's interactions, there's stuff going on.
Yep.
Not everybody's on the same page. So slow down, play with folks, unless you can say, all right, this group is we're gonna do this speed run, or we're gonna do this thing. So just kind of be conscious of who's playing with you and just talk it out before you start.
Yeah, and that's something even throughout the whole game, right? Communicate what you're doing. A lot of times when I play solo, I'm not like narrating my game to myself. I'm going to play my quiver. I'm going to exhaust my quiver. But when there's 4 other people at the table, it's really boring for them to watch me like turn my cards sideways and randomly put out damage tokens. But instead, if I like narrate my turn to them, then they can follow along and we're engaged as a group. And it's something I'm really bad at when I play solo, so I try to practice it as much as I can when I'm playing multiplayer, like talking out my turn so people know what I'm doing, and if they have something that can help me, they can be like, oh, can I take an action to help you out? And they'll be able to jump in more easily, because otherwise, like, you sort of take your turn and people see what you did, and then they say, oh, well, can we go back so I, like, stun the villain first? Does that help you? And then all of a sudden, like, you're doing all these takebacks and jump arounds and loops, and it's just better if you're, like, communicating what you're doing to people.
Yeah. Okay, talking about communicating, listening to people. Sometimes you guys get on the microphone there, and you have important announcements, so we're going to hear announcements. Is there a raffle this year?
There is a raffle this year, so there's a bunch of like OP prizes and some donated dividers and tokens and things like that. So if you have anything, even if it's something like, hey, I bought an extra set of dragon shields and I don't need them, you can put them at like it's not a raffle because you don't like buy tickets for it, but like everybody's name gets entered into like a door prize calling when they check in at the con. So yeah, we announce things like that. We announce when events are starting. The microphone at Game Center is not the best, although I've been told that it has been replaced in its functions this year. So maybe we'll.
I donated
crossed.
mine from the last few issues of the show to use.
Yeah, there you go. It's Critical Encounter's fault.
It'll be bad.
But yeah, so we'll try to be as loud as we can. Usually, someone that is louder and more boisterous than me, like Vardane, will be like, "Hey, knuckleheads, listen," and then everybody hears me talking.
Okay, so I could do the clap. Did you guys have a clap in school that made everybody echo the clap and they were quiet, or we put the sign up for scouts? I can get a room full of folks quiet if we need it.
We got it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about decks. What are we excited to play? Like heroes, but we do have to play the game. So, what villain are you excited to play? Maybe 4-player that you haven't played before, and what deck or deck ideas do you think you're going to bring to the con? Let's start with Chris. I'm going to put him on the spot.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
All right. So villains, I'm always a fan since he came out, especially in getting him into 4 players because it can get nasty. Juggernaut is always just a fun one to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
He can be challenging, but he's not too hard. He's just kind of middle of the road, just a fun one. From the newer stuff, I'm really looking forward to trying Thunderbolts in a multiplayer situation because I've only played it like once or twice in solo.
Well, it sounds like we're gonna have to play the Thunderbolts, so that's
Yes.
fun. That was gonna be my pick too, is the Thunderbolts, with as many Thunderbolts as we can have by the time the con starts. I don't know if we'll have Silk or Shuri by then or not.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
As for decks I bring, first of all, I will always bring a Miss Marvel deck because I am a Miss Marvel stan and I love her in this game and I push her on everybody and everything. If you ever see me at the con and you have a Miss Marvel deck, please show me because I want to see them all. Excuse me. Other than that, I was looking at the other thing I like to do for a lot of these cons is I almost like to build support decks.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been tinkering around with a Shadowcat Justice because Shadowcat can ignore crisis icons and use things like gunboat diplomacy and mutant peacekeepers to just be able to take lots of threat off. And even though they're events, as long as she's in phased form, if there happen to be any crisis icons up, she can just ignore them.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, and especially like with Shadowcat, you can jump in and defend if needed or things like that. But of just I'm not gonna necessarily take down the villain or take that out of things, but I'll work over here and I'll try to help other people or build like a Captain Marvel deck that just hands out cards to everybody.
Hmm.
You can play at my table anytime. Give me cards. Uh, Dan, what do you think you're interested in bringing?
So I definitely want to play everything I can from the Shield box, but I'm really excited for MODOK because that was our group's favorite multiplayer scenario. Because what we did is we kind of piddled around until we could all produce like enough damage to knock out a MODOK, right? And then we would like see how many MODOKs we could burn through in a turn to unlock different Inhuman cages, and that was super fun. So I anticipate that will be fun at the convention. For decks I'm going to bring, every year I bring like 12 decks, right? I bring like all my favorite heroes, and then I bring like a Hawkeye deck or multiple Hawkeye decks. And every time I sit down with somebody, I'm like, what do you want me to play? Here's all your choices. And every single time they're like, you should play that Hawkeye deck.
Yeah.
So last year I was brave and I only brought 4 Hawkeye decks, and then I loaned decks from other people for my other games. So I think I might do that again. But I have been tinkering with a Drax deck where like I include every card that costs 0, first aid, and Drax's kit, because Drax's kit only has 9 resource cost once you get rid of the cost on the Night Fleet.
When you reduce the
cost to 0,
Yeah.
so you can make a deck where like the total cost is like 11, and nothing sounds more fun than being like, I get to take 5 actions a turn. It's just playing Honorary Guardian 3 times, but
you play your whole
so
hand every turn. Yeah, that
I
could be
might bring
fun.
that out. Just play my whole hand every turn as a separate action for each card. Sounds super fun. But we'll see. I'll probably bring it, and then everyone will ask me to play Hawkeye. So we'll see. The other thing that I wanted to warn people about, I forgot to mention this because this isn't in your spoilers. It's in another spoiler video we did way back in January. One of the custom modular sets you're going to get is a way to give any hero aerial. So if you're like me and you're a Hawkeye player and you're jealous of Angel and Spectrum and all these cool aerial characters that get all these aerial cards in the Angel pack and the Star-Lord pack, then you might want to just build one 40-card deck with a character that normally couldn't have aerial, anticipating that they'll have a way to get aerial for at least one game. And that'll be pretty fun.
Okay. So they're going to get a cloak, a cape, or a flying car.
Or a jetpack.
Or a
Rocket boots.
jetpack. Oh, all right. Okay, cool. That sounds fun.
I may or may not have a Miss Marvel dive bomb deck ready to go for that, but
Nice. So for me, I'm excited to play Thunderbolts and any of the new Shield stuff for as far as villains go. I'd love to get a Kang gang. Well, I can't even say that. I'd love to get a Kang 4-player game in. That'd be fun. It can be a little longer, but it's interesting. It's especially with anyone who's never got a chance to play it multiplayer. As for hero decks, I'm gonna try to bring a Nick Fury aggression deck. I'm gonna try to bring a Maria Hill Justice deck, and hope that there's a chance for me to play it. Not that everybody doesn't have that. I'm tinkering around with a Black Panther leadership deck because Shuri might be out. So like the siblings or Black Panther could be fun. So I was thinking of trying to do that. And maybe I'll plan for him to go aerial. We'll see. Yeah, I think last year I brought like 6, and I only ended up playing like 3 of them. I just kept playing the same one. Anytime I sat down with Daniel, it's like, I'm going to play Iron Man. Ha ha ha. So, I think maybe I'll bring one of each aspect and call it a day. So
it sounds like a good plan. Oh, actually, I will say, if you normally play solo, the con is a great place to play like those heroes that don't work well in solo. I'm looking at you, Valkyrie, or maybe Hulk. It's a great chance to dust them off and pull them out of the whatever little closet you shoved them in and get them out and make them reasonable, useful heroes.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say about deck building too is, and it might not matter because of the way this game handles resources, but it might be worth having a small sideboard of 5 cards that are basic allies when you go to sit down and you're planning, you have too many unique things or you're planning something like that, and to just be able to like, all right, I'll pull out these unique allies because you really need them in your deck, and I can shuffle in a Mockingbird and a Nick Fury or something along those lines. Maybe Nick's a bad example, but just to cover your bases, or maybe it doesn't matter because you just spend those as resources anyways. So
that is what I do. Is I build little 45 card decks, and then when I sit down with the group, I say like, hey, I have a Quinn carrier. Anybody else got one? If someone else has one, I just remove it. That way, at the end of the day, like I've probably removed like a Maria Hill and a Quinn carrier and a Nick Fury, and all of a sudden I have a 42 card deck that's ready to go, and then I just plop them back in the deck after the scenario. I know a couple people that do stuff like that.
yeah. Okay, cards, decks, villains. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but I think the one thing I want to know are like spoiler cards, man. Let's look at some convention cards. Are we ready? Let's do.
Warning! Spoiler alert. All right, you have access to this, so you can put it in your YouTube feed as well. So we're going to go over a lot of cards here, but a couple of them will have been in multiple other videos as well. So I'll let you know, like, hey, if you've seen the other videos, you've heard about this part. But what you guys are going to get to learn about is how Carnage upgrades in the Carnage scenario. So again, if you don't want to know anything about it going into it, maybe tune out and then come back and watch us laugh about this later. So Con of Heroes for the first time has a fully custom scenario, not just a modular set, but some of the hooks from that scenario are also available as modular sets. It works in single table mode or in multiverse mode, and we'll go over how you make that determination here, so people know right when they get their cards, they're going to remove some of them if they're playing in single player, single table, or remove a different set of cards if they're playing in like multiple tables at once. So the villain you're going to play against is Carnage. So this is Carnage 1, which is the standard mode Carnage. He has 2 scheme and 2 attack, symbiote and criminal traded, and he has 2 effects. Forced response: after Carnage attacks and defeats an ally, place 1 cultist counter on the Here to Slay objective, which actually is an environment card, but this is a different game, so there's a typo I found live. That's cool. And then he has again, we're not professionals here. He has a when defeated effect. When defeated, remove 3 threat per player from Along Came a Spider, which is a side scheme. Then heal Carnage to full health instead of defeating him. So he's going to be a repeatable, like, punching glove that you want to punch over and over and over again as a team to work towards some objective. So really cool art by Dawn and Dan. Dan, who is not me, a different Dan that is usually at the cons. So you can thank him for this cool art if you see him.
Oh, that looks great. Yeah.
So the scheme that Carnage is going to come with is called Gathering the Spiders. So scheme 1A, main scheme, look out heroes. Carnage is on the loose. Stop him from gathering souls around the multiverse. If he assembles enough cultists, he may ascend to godhood, which is a recent like Carnage storyline that happened in the comics. So the setup is going to be remove the Carnage symbiote attachment, which we'll talk about in this show later today, from the game, because that's only played when you want to like add the hook as a modular set. If playing in single table mode, there'll be a bunch of cards that have like card 1B and like card 7B. You're going to remove all the Bs if you're playing in single table mode. That way the game will have all the right terminology for like a game of just 4 people. If you're playing in multiverse mode, you're going to remove all the A's. So you're going to keep, there's a couple cards that we have 2 versions of depending on if you're playing with multiple tables or not. So that's a new thing for Marvel Champions. You're going to put the scenario environment Here to Slay into play, and the side scheme Along Came a Spider, and reveal it, and then find 7 Web Warrior allies and set them aside.
So that is from the standard cards?
So in the setup, you're going to include Carnage 1 and 2 in standard mode, or 3 and 4 in expert mode. And you're going to use a new standard set that was just spoiled on the Winning Hand podcast, the Symbiote standard set. The Cultists of Carnage modular set, which we're going to go over today. And then 2 other modular sets. We recommend the Children of Carnage modular set, which you'll also get at the con, and Symbiotic Strength. So it's going to be a real big thick encounter deck. And then when you flip that over and go to 1B, it's a repeatable side scheme. So a repeatable villain and a repeatable side scheme in the first phase of this multiverse event. The side scheme has a forced interrupt when this scheme would be completed. Instead, do each of the following. Remove all threat from here, and place 1 per player cultist counters on Here to Slay, that environment card. So we'll show you what Here to Slay is, and this is sort of the core loop of the first phase of the game. Is Carnage is trying to place counters onto this environment. So Here to Slay is an environment that says forced response. After a cultist counter is placed here, if there are 3 per player cultist counters here, progress to main scheme 2A. So you're going to be stuck in this gameplay loop of trying to knock Carnage out over and over again and trying to defeat this side scheme before Carnage eventually just overtakes and pushes you to phase 2. So you notice this is card 5A, so that's the single table version. In the multiverse table version, there's a great web table that's gathering all these carnage counters that will announce when the whole con moves to phase 2 at once.
Ooh.
Oh, neat. Okay.
So we can blame it on somebody else.
Exactly.
Yes,
So and
yes.
it kind of counters some of the things we learned from last year, right? If one table is slower than another table, that's okay, because this other table can take 5 turns and this one can take 3 turns, but we're all going to move together to the second phase eventually. So there's a side scheme that also started in play from that setup called Along Came a Spider. Cute little picture of Spider-Man here. Again, all of the art here is commissioned from artists, different like student artists and professional artists around the world. So a really cool experience getting to like write art briefs and then have them write them to fit into a card frame. So this is a repeatable side scheme, Forced Interrupt. When this side scheme would be defeated, place a web warrior counter on this side scheme, then refill its threat. Put 3 per player threat back on the side scheme instead of defeating it. So in phase 1, we're going to be attacking Carnage and trying to defeat this side scheme to recruit web warrior counters, which you may have heard about in one of the other videos. But what you all care about is when we progress to phase 2, that side scheme and that environment are both going to flip over. The side scheme is going to give the players a bonus, where we can now use these web warrior counters to summon spiders from across the universe. But the environment is going to give Carnage a bonus. So here is the environment gaining momentum. It says, forced response, after the villain phase begins, do each of the following in order. Discard any minion that is attached to this card into the encounter card discard pile. Then discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you find a cultist minion, one of these worshippers of Carnage. And you'll attach that minion to this environment card. And what those minions do is that there's 5 of them. They all have the same art, so they're really easy to recognize. And they all have, sort of like Black Widow has like a preparation ability, which is supposed to be a thematic special ability. All these cultists operate as minions just regularly, but they also have a worship ability. And whenever this minion is attached to the environment or to the attachment card, if you're using the symbiote suit, it'll give the villain Carnage that bonus. So this example here is the Stinging Cultist. It's a 1/1 3 health minion, pretty generic with Retaliate 1. But the worship ability is, well, this card is attached to the environment, Carnage also gains Retaliate 1. So every round, every round at the beginning of the villain phase, you're going to mill the encounter deck and find a new random ability for Carnage to gain. So the examples we have here are one that gives Retaliate 1, one that gives Carnage 1 extra attack, so you can't really totally prepare for what's going to happen in the villain phase.
So the theme here is like these cultists with their own symbiote powers are like feeding Carnage their power and he's gaining it, sort of, right?
Yeah, the way it worked in the comics was like Carnage had these worshippers and he ascended to godhood, and then he would they had some weird thing called codexes, but he would use their bodies to give himself extra abilities. So he's soaking energy from this cultist and gaining another ability. And that's in phase 2 of the encounter deck. So once we all progress to phase 2, Carnage is going to have this random buff and we're all going to try to defeat him together. And then the other thing that I wanted to reveal in this show is that's sort of like the hook for phase 2 of the scenario, but there's also this Carnage symbiote suit that we said to remove from the encounter deck. So you can use the Cultist of Carnage in any scenario you want, but what'll be happening is the Carnage symbiote suit will go on to whatever villain you're playing against. So if you want to play Rhino as a symbiote, if you want to play against Rhino as a symbiote, he can gain this Carnage symbiote suit, and he can gather those cultist worshippers just like Carnage did in his recent run, and they're going to power up Rhino in the same way in this scenario it powers up Carnage. So it functions as like a modular set or as like a scenario hook.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah, because the cultists say if they're attached to the environment or the attachment, so you have the options of. Yeah, cool. This looks like fun. You know, I'm going to need to build a Web Warrior deck to bring to the con now.
Yeah.
I had started making a Miles Morales and I didn't like it, but now I'm going to have to go back. So
I will admit, in looking at this, I now want to put that Carnage symbiote suit on Sandman because he's going to mill his deck so much with that.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. All right, we're already thinking of ideas. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, that's all we have for today.
Awesome. What I want to do is say thank you, Dan. Thank you, KennedyHawk, for coming on.
Oh, no problem.
Talking to us about the con, shown us these previews and spoilers. People can see the images on our YouTube channel. We'll post them in some of our socials as well. And you said that the Winning Hand has previews and MCM has previews as well.
Yeah, the 2 weeks before this, you'll be able to find other videos. So we'll give everybody each other's links so we can put them in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, Chris, it's audition time. Here you go.
Why, thank you. You can email us at criticalencounterpod@gmail.com. We're Critical Encounters on Facebook. You can find our YouTube, Twitch, or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Maka, and KennedyHawk. As always, if you like our show, tell your friends. If you didn't like our show, tell your enemies. Crossfire, take us out.
In the typical fashion of someone who holds all the cards, I'm going to divulge more than you will need to know about me and my business. I'm going to run because my children are currently playing an experiment of if I throw Hot Wheels over the loft ledge, will they break on the tile downstairs? Which,
okay.
while very scientific, is probably bad.